Hi, I'm Frank Schaefer. I'm an author and I'm a painter, and I am a commentator on politics, especially the influence of religion on politics, because I, in the 1970s and 80s, I am ashamed to say, was a religious right activist and the sidekick of my evangelist father, Francis Schaefer, who, along with C. Everett Koop, Ronald Reagan's Surgeon General, more or less started the evangelical wing of the anti-abortion movement. I left that movement, I left evangelicalism, I left my theology and philosophy that I had been indoctrinated with, brainwashed with as a child, and by the end of the 1980s was on my way out of the religious right. Today I look at Donald Trump understanding that the only reason he's in power is because of that 81% of evangelical white voters, partially racists reacting against 8 years of their failed lynching of one of our best presidents, Barack Obama, that they tried to obstruct at every turn, put this buffoon, this molester of women, this immoral man in every sense of the word, especially judged by evangelical standards, in the White House. And now we have his fiasco towering over the country like some sort of tsunami washing ashore again and again and again, like his off-the-wall tweets. He's trying to get rid of Paul Ryan now in Congress. In other words, he is willing to undo even his own party and cause chaos to save his ego for his failures, such as his so-called Trump Care, which went down in flames in contrast to President Obama's successful legislation that has put 20 million more Americans on health insurance rolls. So what are we left with? And I just want to be brief here. We have three bullies competing for who gets to punch who in the mouth and sucker punch them fastest. We have the so-called Freedom Caucus in Congress, which is really the Tea Party derivative of extreme evangelical right-wing white Christian males who are bent on bringing back America, quote, to Jesus. In other words, creating a Iranian, Saudi-style theocracy here where gay rights are smashed, women's rights are smashed, blacks go back into Jim Crow, voting rights are stripped, immigrants are treated like pariahs. America turns inward on itself in a spasm of xenophobia and hate. That's their agenda. And they have state houses, Republicans in power across the country to back it up with all the gerrymandering that's gone on. They are bullies. They are the people who are pure racists, and because of racial animosity coming out of the Tea Party, and don't mistake anything, that's all it was, they tried to stop Barack Obama at every turn, and they failed because he was smarter than they are. They are so extreme that they do not accept Donald Trump because they have an agenda of their own, which is not his. He's not a theocrat. He's just using evangelicals. He doesn't give a damn about their agenda. And then you have Donald Trump himself, the fool, the true fool in charge of our country. This failure, this braggart, this man who went bankrupt multiple times as a businessman, and who bullies and who tweets, and who is so underhanded that he can never even take blame for his own fiascos. So, for instance, now he's using Fox News to try to undermine Paul Ryan, not because it'll do his agenda any good. It'll just lead to more chaos, but because for one day he only thinks in sound bites, 2 minutes at a time. It makes him look a little better, as if it's all Paul Ryan's fault and not his. And then you have Steve Bannon, this man who has given the alt-right, the neo-Nazis, the fascists globally, a reference point in Breitbart.com to look at, and now who sits whispering demonic nothings into the president's ear, trying to manipulate him into starting a global conflict with Islam. This off-the-wall, deranged man who really believes that what we need is World War III to cleanse us. That's true Hitler talk. The great cleansing of Germany that was supposed to take place at the end of World War II, when Hitler knows he's lost the war and he's sitting in his bunker having one fit after another, calling for scorched earth, rather destroy everything around him so that somehow this out of this Valhalla, out of this catastrophic Wagnerian chaos comes this new Germany. Well, that's Bannon. So which bully is going to sucker punch the other fastest? The evangelical bullies in the Freedom Caucus, these 37 deranged, lunatic, simple men, white buffoons in Congress who shut our government down numerous times so they could punch a black man in the mouth? This egomaniacal bully in the White House who doesn't think past tomorrow morning's newscast and cannot get his head around governance of any kind, and never could in his company. It was all bullshit. But now he's run into the hard edge of actual history and truth, showing him up as the tin pot fool that he is. Or Bannon, this dark lord of deranged, simplistic, high school sophomoric ideas about global conflict, as if he's some moron who picked up a paperback at an airport and read it on a plane and gets off now convinced to be either a Marxist or a libertarian or whatever. You know, this is a guy who believes whatever he read in the last paperback from some scholar on the fringe of the fringe of the fringe. So we're watching a competition of self-destruction here, and those of us who love this country, like me, who had my Marine son go to war and fight for us and risk his life for our country back in 2003 and 2004 when George Bush was president, people like me, ordinary Americans, have got to hang together and keep opposing and stopping these people at every turn. And one thing we've got to do is cast light on what's really happening, and that's what I'm trying to do this morning. 3 bullies competing for chaos, to wear the crown of the most destructive. The Republicans have the majority in Congress, and they have a man in the White House. And so far, all they've managed to do is burn their own house down, the way they tried to burn the country down when President Obama was sitting in the White House. They don't put country first. They don't put anything first. What they put first is chaos. This is the party of chaos, and they will remain so because they are ideological fools. You want a comparison? Look at what the Iranian mullahs have done to Iran in destroying that country step by step through their chaotic, stupid application of Sharia law. Look at the Saudi Arabians who keep driving their country into the ground, not letting women vote, whipping people and beheading them in public. We've got the same kind of fanatical, fringe lunatics in charge of Congress, 37 obstructionists up against a bully fool for a president, being goaded on by a sophomoric high school student named Steve Bannon, who really believes his own bullshit. That's where we are today, and my name is Frank Schaefer. Thank you.